I've been asking everyone on the show in a similar way, what advice would you give to someone who may be listening and they're saying, well, I got this home-based business, or I'm thinking about this idea. Maybe I'll work on it a little bit before I figure out this tax thing. Like, what should people do, and when should they really start to think about their taxes?
I think they should start, read the book. Again, I'm biased, right? So $14 on Amazon, like just get the book's a tax write-off. So it's an easy read. I let people sit down and read it in an afternoon, make a tea or whatever. So just get your mind going, right? So as you start to move ahead in your business, and you need to invest in things, you need to hire a coach, you know what I mean? You look at it from a tax write-off state, like, you know what I mean? We always look at it like, we do the math in our head about the return on investment, right? Like, if I was selling coaching services, one of the things I would say was, Georgette, you can write this off on your taxes. So let me get Doug's tax app out and tell you what that could be worth. You know what I mean? Like, you could quantify it. It's almost like the IRS is going to help you pay for some of that, right? So on the flip side is, as an entrepreneur, if we looked at our investments that way, then we may be more inclined to jump, to that next thing, or invest in that coach, or invest in this whatever, right? And say, okay, I'm going to IRS is going to help me pay for some of that, because I'm going to claim it as a tax write-off, and I can draw some of that tax refund from my full-time, you know what I mean? Like, and it's, that's probably the answer, I guess, to your question is start learning this. You don't have to be the tax expert, in all facets of your business, but just get that mindset flowing and start to develop. And as you do because you got to grow your business, you got to do things, and you know what I mean? So that creating revenue is the main thing. The write-offs is sort of that back end that nobody wants to go. We just got to, it's almost like if you can picture a pool, right? And it just sit on the edge and put your feet in. You don't want to jump in the pool. You know what I mean? Like, just get a temperature of the water and get, start to feel it, and then maybe go the shallow end and work your way down. And that's part of the advice I would give most people. And, as your income grows and the tax man says, hey, I want 20, 30% of that, then you're like, I got to figure out, I need to learn more. Right. So, and, and I try to put a book and a course together that sort of gets that flowing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not pushing you into the deep end and saying, here, you're on your own. It's like, okay, let's sit here and let's kind of just do that journey together. And, what I know I've learned over 20 years, like, I can't expect somebody to say what I want to be like, as what Doug knows I want to know, like, this afternoon. Like, it takes time, right? So.
Awesome advice, Doug. And I think just the last part that you said, what's really interesting is you can become their virtual mentor, and they can learn a lot about what you know over that 20 years by reading your book.
Yeah,
kind of like saving time.
And I have a Facebook group that's growing. I've interviewed tax lawyers, tax accountants, Canada and the US. I've interviewed people that have actually applied what I'm talking about, have actually followed my journey, taken the course and read the book, come back and actually filed taxes and got, $3,000, $10,000 refunds. And I brought them into my group and just interviewed them like this. So it's just making other people say, oh, geez, I relate to Georgette's story. Like, I can do this too. Like, I got to learn, you know what I mean? And just like, because there is a lot of bad advice out there, and especially in home-based business. And, one of the recommendations I would say that if you're hiring, we're in tax season right now. If you're hiring somebody to do your taxes, make sure they understand your business. If you're in coaching, if you're, in any type of business, and I have that in my book, right? So I believe that people can do their own taxes, but if you're going to hire somebody, make sure that person, it's almost like you got to interview them. It's almost like if you're hiring a coach, you just don't randomly get somebody that's going to coach you, doesn't know anything about your industry, doesn't know anything about your business. Anyway, you're going to find somebody that aligns with you. And I believe that you got to find a tax person like that too. They gotta have an interest in what you do. You got to have a knowledge of your type. You know what I mean? Like, I've interviewed accountants and tax lawyers in my Facebook group who are in a home-based business. I wouldn't interview a tax lawyer who sits, in an office building that's never had a home base. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want somebody, you're in a home-based business, we connect, come on in, would you come in and talk to the crowd, and I'll ask you questions about home-based business, what you can and can't from a tax lawyer standpoint, right? So he's sitting in his home office on Zoom, right? So it's, find people that are aligned with your type of industry or, home-based business, whatever. So that would be other piece of advice I'd give them.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Doug, for all of the wonderful advice and the great stories along the way in our talk today.